When the sun sets, the undead awaken. To slake their hunger, they feed upon the herd of unaware mortals. Right beneath our noses, the kindred clash against their rivals as they vie for control of the city of San Francisco. Are you strong enough to cheat final death and see another night? Vampire the Masquerade Rivals expandable card game from Renegade Game Studios.
Good evening, family. I am Matt Holland here for Vampire Wednesday as usual. Tonight we have kind of an exciting announcement. I know that y'all have seen the pre-orders and things popping up at some online retailers for the first Vampire Rivals expansion, Blood and Alchemy. Well, tonight we will finally announce that officially and share with you details on our pre-order and the ability for your local game store to pre-order. That will be starting tomorrow. So without further ado, let's jump into a little bit about Blood and Alchemy, what it is, what it's going to add to Vampire Rivals, and how you're going to be able to get it, and the promo goodies that will come with the pre-order. So Blood and Alchemy, this introduces two new clans to Vampire Rivals. We add the Tremere, which I know a lot of people have been waiting for, and the Thin Bloods. So two new options. In this expansion, there are two new pre-constructed decks you can just bust out of the plastic wrap and start playing against either each other or against the four original decks from the core set if you're a player who is not quite ready to get into the deck construction thing yet. But if you are interested in the deck construction and all the customization options that are available in Rivals, this is a wealth of new cards for you to mix and match in with the four original clans. In addition to those two pre-constructed decks, as you saw in the Rivals core set, there's a 30-card crypt pack of more cards, more vampires, more options to customize and build out any of the decks that you might be making, whether it's Bruja, Tremere, a combination of any of these. And with some of the options in this new expansion, there's a lot of cool stuff that could be tied in or mixed in with some of the original flavors, so to speak. And let's just talk a little bit about what those are. So the Tremere are masters of what is called blood sorcery. They draw their power from their blood, and they can actually do some pretty wild stuff like swap out an opponent's blood tokens on an opponent's vampires with the Tremere vampires or the Tremere player's own blood. They can use that blood later for various nefarious purposes, and in doing so, essentially indirectly deal damage to that vampire because they're going to take that blood off the enemy vampire to pay a cost or to do a certain effect. So a pretty neat way to get by defenses and just cause some problems and put some pressure onto a player. Then the Thin Bloods. The Thin Bloods are very new and sort of weak, low blood potency vampires, which you see with the Thin Bloods. A lot of blood potencies from like 1 to 3. One potency, you think, wow, that's not a lot. That's not very easy to keep alive in the face of some of these pretty big attacks we see. But these vampires have adapted to that low blood potency. They have access to Thin Blood Alchemy, which lets them buff their stats, lets them play these special alchemy cards, which will give them improvements, and a lot of innate protective abilities when they're working together, and abilities that just kind of buff the whole party when you have a bunch of them in play. So if you're playing a lot of Thin Blood vampires in your faction deck, you're likely to have a larger coterie at any given time than someone who's playing, one of the other clans where a lot of your vampires are 4, 5, and 6. When you're looking at 1, 2, and 3, you've got a lot more money to go around, a lot more blood to go around. And that's just going to color the way those work. This expansion here is going to cost $30. You're going to have those two pre-constructed decks, your crypt pack, and a variety of new tokens to round out that whole product. And additionally, you'll get two pretty slick pre-order alt art cards for the Tremere and Thin Blood vampire leaders. So we'll take a look at those real quick up on the screen. But Jacob Frost, he is the Thin Blood leader in the pre-constructed deck, only a blood potency of 3, so a far cry from the 6 that we saw in most of the pre-con decks for the core set. Due to this, he's got relatively low stats compared to what we saw from other higher potency vampires with 1 physical, 0 social, and 1 mental. And that new discipline there, that is the Thin Blood Alchemy discipline. It's at least so far unique to the Thin Bloods. And he's got the ability here, attacker. This attack deals +1 damage to the target for every 2 characters in this party, including this character. So your maximum value there is going to be +3 damage if you manage to have a 6 or 7 vampire party. But pretty easily, you're going to get an extra damage with just him and 1 party member. And when you're talking about very inexpensive, low blood cost vampires, getting +2 is not going to cost you a lot of blood. On to the Tremere leader, Sonia Valentine. Sonia Valentine is a 6 blood potency Tremere with 0 physical, 1 social, and 2 mental. That second discipline there is Blood Sorcery. This is unique to the Tremere in this expansion, and I think in general. And at the start of your turn, she lets you replace 1 blood on the target character in the streets with 1 blood of your own color from the general supply. So that's what I was talking about. You'll put your blood into play on these other vampires and can then spend that both to power your abilities and to sort of do, like we said, an indirect sort of damage. A lot of possibilities when it comes to the abilities and the themes of these 2 new clans, and whether you use them solo or if you use them to augment another clan that you like. There's going to be a lot of interesting archetypes and meta shifts when we see this sort of thing. So in addition to those 2 new disciplines, Thin Blood Alchemy and Blood Sorcery, this expansion is going to have some other fun stuff. I am particularly excited for the ability to gain extra actions in a turn. You have the ability to do that can be very, very powerful. If you think even just 1 additional action is a 50% increase over the 2 that you get. The cards, there are Thin Blood Alchemy cards that when you play them on a Thin Blood, you will get that additional action. They could be played on other vampires. They won't grant you the additional action, though. So that's going to allow you to buff that vampire and then still use them for something in that turn, which is a really nice buff when you're only looking at 2 actions normally. Then the Tremere are going to have these rituals that will require both time and blood to perform. And these are going to be a good way to use your blood that is on enemy vampires. You can use that blood to power these rituals for powerful effects over time. Another thing that's pretty cool that I'm excited to see in action is superficial damage. So we have aggravated damage. Superficial damage is sort of the opposite from the way that I look at it. It is damage that cannot deal that last point of blood to a vampire. So you can hurt them, you just can't quite take them out with it. So there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff and a lot more in there. And if you want to see a deep dive into Blood and Alchemy and what's coming from it, and maybe a look at what's coming from future products, definitely tune in to Elysium: A Weekend of Darkness. This is happening on June 11th and 12th, and we are going to have a lot of information on what's coming for Rivals, both for products, for organized play, all that kind of stuff. Saturday, June 12th at 2 p.m. Pacific, Matt Hyra and I are going to do the Rivals panel, where we will be showing off a whole bunch more cards from Blood and Alchemy. We'll be talking a little bit more about what makes each of these clans tick, and some of the things that that this expansion will bring to people who maybe already have a deck they like or have a archetype they like to play. Maybe ways to augment and assist what you're already doing with some of the new cards in this set. And then after that panel at 3:30 p.m. Pacific on June 12th, Matt Hyra and I are going to, with the help of our Twitch audience, going to design a card for Annabelle, the Bruja character in LA by Night. So really awesome character that I know a lot of you guys have watched in action in the show. We want to make her into a card in the game. So we want you to come out, give us ideas, give us your input, and help us make a card like we did for Victor Temple for Annabelle that will show up later in the game in some way. So 2 awesome things going on for Rivals on Saturday, but both Friday and Saturday we have a full slate of World of Darkness content for the role-playing game, for Rivals, all sorts of things that you can enjoy, including our premiere episode of our new Vampire RPG live play show. That's going to happen on Friday evening, I think at 8 p.m. Pacific. That's called The Nightlife, and it takes place in the shadows of sunny Miami. So a nice change of pace from a lot of the worlds that you've seen in vampire shows so far. Really excited to see what the team is doing with that, and I highly recommend that you tune in and check it out. So Elysium Con, you can find out more if you go to renegadegamestudios.com/Elysium-Con for a full schedule, for free tickets, all that kind of stuff. The Rivals Create a Card in particular is most fun with a large audience and strong opinions. So please join us and be a part of that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we get a really cool result like we did with Victor Temple at the last Renegade Con. But I hope that this gives you a little bit of information about the Blood and Alchemy expansion, gets you excited to find out more, and head over to our pre-order at vampirecardgame.com/pre-order. That's going to lead you to Crowdox, which will have all the information, pricing for shipping, the ability, and people ask this all the time, the ability for your local game store to pledge, get the product and the promos at a discount to then sell to their customers. We don't want to leave the local game store out of exciting initiatives like these pre-order bonuses. So if you're a store owner, or if you are a faithful customer of a store, make sure the store knows they can head there, pledge for that, and get the product at a great discount to still support them and make sure that you still get these fun pre-order goodies. Head to vampirecardgame.com/pre-order. And fulfillment is expected to be this August, so not too long away for you to get these additional options for deck building. And of course, an August release means that we should have this legal for the Gen Con Prince of the City event, which is going to be very exciting to see how these new cards will shake up whatever meta has managed to establish itself in the next couple of months. So a lot of excitement coming there with the Blood and Alchemy expansion. And then, like I said, tune in next weekend and find out more, weekend after next, and find out even more about Blood and Alchemy and what's coming. We'll be previewing it over that event as well as Vampire Wednesdays in the weeks to come, eventually showing off the starter decks that it comes with, showing off the crypt pack, and really deep diving into some of the things that it introduces. But I know I'm really excited. Thin Blood in particular just seems really cool because it's so wildly different from what we've seen from the other clans. I really want to see how I can make those very inexpensive vampires work and just see kind of how that changes the experience. So I'm excited to see what is coming from that. I'm excited to have everyone's participation and help when we create a card for Annabelle at the Rivals Create a Card on June 12th. And I'm excited for everything else that we have coming down. So tonight, not a long stream, but I wanted to make sure that you guys know what's up with this pre-order and are excited about Blood and Alchemy, because I know I am. And I know we have a lot of cool stuff coming. Anybody who is waiting for information on the Gen Con tournament, you won't have to wait very long. We will have that ready to go when the event registration opens up for Gen Con here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be having a large event, working hard at getting all the prizes ready for that, because we really want you to show up and leave with a bag full of fun stuff that really makes it feel like it was worth your time and sort of the trip to come out to Gen Con. So stay tuned for stuff like that on future Vampire Wednesdays. But for tonight, that's all I have for you. Everyone have a great night, and I hope you are enjoying and playing Vampire Rivals at home. Have an excellent evening.